Hello everyone, welcome to today's episode of The Shredding Skeptic. Today we're going to be looking back at running with rifles, and we're going to see what else this game has in store. Specifically today I want to talk about the different approaches that you can take to the game based on your equipment selection. The balancing between the weapons on this game is phenomenal. I couldn't believe how little of an advantage one gets simply by picking, say, a more XP heavy weapon. It just really depends on how you want to play the game. So for the first little while, you as a player are going to be stuck using whatever the base assault rifle is for your class. So that's either going to be the M16, the AK, or the G36, depending on what color you start with. And from there you also have a selection of shotguns, machine guns, and sniper rifles. I can't say I got around to using the shotgun all that much because I really enjoyed taking advantage of the Affinity setup by being able to snipe at a much farther distance, far farther than the enemy is going to be able to see you from. So the disadvantages of the sniper rifle include a smaller magazine size, slower rate of fire, and a fairly lengthy reload. So if you're a patient player that likes to sit back and snipe, this is probably the weapon system for you. If on the other hand you like to stay in one place and just lay down an absurd amount of covering fire, the machine gunner may be a more appropriate class selection. You'll find after trying these two different classes that the regular assault class is sort of a balance between the two, as it allows you to maintain your mobility a little bit better. For example, with the machine gun, if you want to fire, you either have to be able to put the machine gun on top of cover, or you're going to have to lay down prone, which it does automatically when you press the attack button. This has the disadvantage of not being able to basically move when you're shooting, and you're going to have to be a little bit more strategic about where you choose to place yourself. If, on the other hand, you like to be right in the thick of it, the shotgun or assault rifle class may be more appropriate for you. As you can see there on the top screen, he also called it an airstrike, which is also a great way of dropping heavy ordnance on your opponents. You can do it through mortars, airstrikes, all sorts of different things, and it's basically just done at the expense of rifle points. I confess, I don't really know exactly how that rifle point system works. It seems as if you have a bunch of them to start with, and then as the round progresses, it seems to be rather difficult to acquire more. XP seems to be pretty straightforward, just basically killing more than you die, as is in most shooter games. So, again, if I do figure that out, I will add it in an update for a later episode. It is important to think ahead about how it is you want to go about taking the territory that you're assaulting. I find it is important to use proper flanking maneuvers and try to get in around behind the enemy to envelop them, or at least distract their forces from behind so that they have less troops to bring forward to the front. Now, if you wanted, you could mix up the weapon classes a little bit by carrying one of the weapons in a backpack. Now, I don't really see that this is going to be all that effective in the long run unless you had a very clear goal in mind, as the added encumbrance is going to cause you to run a little bit slower and get these constant annoying messages about, I should have put less stuff in my backpack and the like. I find a rocket launcher is a good standard secondary weapon most of the time because you never know when an APC or a tank is just going to jump out at you, and you want to be able to put a little bit of damage on that before it wipes out half your squad. Also remember to make good use of cover. The boxes that can be deployed are only about half height, so you're going to want to remember to duck before you reload, and also make sure to give yourself plenty of distance when throwing grenades. Many times I've thrown them and it's hit whatever I was standing behind, so maybe back up a little bit for those and use caution. Although it's not cutting edge, I have definitely fallen in love with the graphic stylings of this game and how it sort of feels like a comic book, and like I mentioned in the last episode, it reminds me of that game 13, where everything was set up to look sort of like a graphic novel. But anyway, I digress, so let's talk quickly a little bit more about these weapon classes and how you can best use them in running with rifles. Your assault rifle class is your basic jack-of-all-trades. They're not all that effective out at extreme long ranges or extreme close ranges, but for the majority of encounters, you're going to do just fine sticking with your basic assault rifle. Don't forget to reload and reload often. In fact, with this game, I've actually bound the reload to the browser back button on my mouse just because I'm using it so frequently. If you can't hit your target straight up, it's often best to just lay down suppressing fire. This may not be as effective with human players, but the AI players won't move, shoot, or do much other than throw grenades if they're pinned down. Again, with the assault rifle, you don't want to stay too far to the back because it doesn't work too well out at extreme ranges, but again, you don't want to run and gun either. This isn't Call of Duty, there are one-shot kills, and you will die a lot if you don't choose to use cover effectively. Finally, just remember to crouch and use prone as often as you can, because it's going to increase your accuracy, as well as learn to fire in bursts to preserve your ammunition. If you're looking for something a little more specialized than the assault rifle class, the machine gun class is effective in fewer situations, but the situations in which it is effective, it is very effective. With the exception of the stoner light machine gun, the LMG is going to have a few disadvantages, including a long reload time, as well as making sure that you're stationary when you're firing, so make sure to keep those disadvantages in mind. The sniper rifle class has been the most fun for me so far because of the eye-finity setup. When you're sending rounds downrange from 2 screens away, they're never even going to see it coming. This class is much better suited to picking out a single target and engaging that way, rather than firing a bunch of rounds into a cluster of enemies. Mind you, there have been several instances where I've missed my initial target and simply hit another enemy behind him by mistake. With this class, you're going to want to avoid getting in close. Use the range advantage and stay back as far as you can, and if you happen to be using a multi-monitor setup, definitely use that advantage as well with this class. This class is also a great one for taking advantage of the flanking maneuver. If you're able to get behind the enemy and start laying down rounds from even farther back, they're going to be forced to move back to you. Making good use of your knife or a secondary silenced pistol is going to allow you to maintain that stealth element, because if you are compromised, you're not going to be in as good of a position to defend yourself as, say, someone with an AR or a shotgun. So this was just a quick update regarding running with rifles and the different ways you can go about playing it. So if you guys haven't had a chance to check out running with rifles on Steam, I definitely recommend you go pick that up. It's a lot of fun to play. And once again, thanks for tuning into this episode of The Shredding Skeptic.